Ladies and gentlemen, I am here chatting with the amazing Machan Taylor. And if you don't know who she is one of the great singers who is, of course, famous for singing with Pink Floyd. Also does her own original stuff. And I mean, God, you've sang with, Sting, George Benson, Aretha Franklin, Pat Benatar, who finally got accepted into the Rock and Roll Hall of
Yay,
Fame.
Patty. I'm so happy for her. Yeah, she deserves
Yeah. Yeah. What was that like when you were touring with her?
it. It was fantastic. It was 1985 or 6, something like that. It was the tour was Seven the Hard Way. And
Right.
this was a little bit, after her really big hits. Um Probably early 80s, I guess, late 70s. So it was a different time in her career for sure. But it was just great. She's such an amazing singer and just a great person. She's so down to earth, and she and Neil are the real deal. Like their marriage, their relationship is really it is what you see. Like they're still so very much in love and very much a couple and a team, and that's how experienced them when I toured with her back in the day, and when I've seen her since then. I mean, they're really just lovely people. So I'm happy for Patty that she's finally in the Rock
I
and Roll
know.
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
That's why I kept saying I don't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because Pat Benatar's not in there. Like, what's going on?
There's a lot of people that aren't in there that should be. I don't really know how they decide these nominations and inductions, but anyway, it's great.
Yeah. There might have been a little bit of delay in starting the stream. I apologize to anyone who just came in a little bit late, but we are talking with the amazing Machan Taylor, singer of Pink Floyd. We were just talking about Pat Benatar, and she was telling you probably just all heard her awesome story about working with Pat. And yeah, so man, God, so many things to talk about. But you are, of course, going to be going out to Chile with Durga McBroom and Lorelei McBroom and Scott Page to celebrate the delicate sound of thunder. This
Yeah,
guy, right?
yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah, exactly. I know, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it'll be the first time that Durga, Scott, and I have been together since that tour, which I shudder to say it's over 30 years ago. It's like, oh my God, where did that time go? But Lorelei and I really only worked together once.
Hmm.
Um, because Lorelei and Roberta Freeman and Durga actually initially came on to the show in Atlanta at the very beginning of that tour, of the Delicate Sound of Thunder tour, and they were filming in Atlanta, and this is very early on. So it was just Rachel and I that were really the official backup singers. And after they did that filming of that show in Atlanta and they had additional singers, they wanted more bodies on stage. So the film director had known Durga, Lorelei, and Roberta and brought them in. And then David, I think it was David or Steve O'Rourke, the manager at the time, um, I think one of them said, "Well, let's add another girl to the mix,"
Right.
and that's how Durga ended up being on the tour and how I ended up working with her. But Lorelei actually came in to take my place because I did not continue, after doing the initial 1 year of the tour, and then there was a break, and then Venice happened, and I was already committed to another project. So Lorelei came in to take my place. So I never really officially worked with her, you know.
Right.
So yeah,
You were with Hiroshima at that point, or?
yeah, I had, after Floyd, I was immediately offered like a bunch of different opportunities, and which was wonderful. And this one opportunity I was offered was to be the lead singer of this band called Hiroshima or Hiroshima. It's like tomato, tomato, whatever you want to say.
Right.
But so I took the deal and I signed a contract. We were signed to Epic Records. I had a 3-year contract with them, and I made a record. I toured for 3 years with them, and then at the end of the contract, we parted ways. But that's why I didn't, go further, do Venice or do Pulse or Division Bell and all the other stuff going forward, because I had sort of taken a left turn. Do I regret it now? Maybe in some ways, but it's always a learning experience doing other kinds of projects and working with different people, and at that time it was what I thought was the right decision.
Well, and it was probably, I mean, because like the clips I've seen, you're definitely the lead singer and the focus of that band.
Yeah, I was. So I was up front, which was a different thing for me, not being a background singer. So, and I thought, it was a good way to go at the time, but it's okay. C'est la vie.
Yeah. We had for those of you who don't know, we had a really awesome chat, not just with Machan, but also Durga, McBroom, and Scott Page, which was, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was just like, you guys were just talking. I was just like, I'm just going to sit back and just have fun because this is great.
I know you kind of like have to surrender, at that point with the three of us.
Yeah. Oh, and honestly, my dad, who used to do a lot of interviewing, he gave me the greatest advice ever, which is just let them talk, because that's what people want to see. So,
Yeah.
and I was watching it just now. It's so great. But I did realize I never did actually get to ask you, how did you initially get involved with Pink Floyd?
Oh, well, that's interesting because that's the link to Patty. So I had done the Pat Benatar tour, and it must have been 1986, an early part of 87 maybe. I'm sort of missing some of the chronology, but Buford Jones, who was the front of house mix engineer for Patty, ended up doing Floyd. So he recommended me for the job when David was looking for singers. So it was just right time, right place, right connection, the right everything. And I remember I was living in LA at the time, and Buford recommended me, and I get this call. And I think it was the management company that called me from London and said, David Gilmour would like to meet you, and he's in Los Angeles right now. And I think they were at Ocean Way Studios, if I'm not mistaken. And they were just mixing Momentary, Lapse, Reason. So they were putting the finishing touches on the record, the studio record. And I went down there. Luckily, I was in LA, and I went down there and I walked in. David and I sat in the lounge at the studio, and we just kind of chatted for a while. And at the end of a very casual conversation, he just said, "Well, so do you want to go on the road?" And that was like it. I never had to sing. He just totally trusted Buford and the recommendation. And for whatever reason, it was so organic and so natural. And that was it. I was in. It's so crazy.
And you probably already had like a pretty good resume because you had already worked with George Benson at that time and everything, right?
Yeah, George and Patty, and I had toured with Foreigner in 19, the years are going by so fast, it's hard to keep track. 1985, and that was a year-long tour. That was a very big tour. And I was the choir master or the choir director for the song I Want to Know What Love Is. And
Oh,
so
really?
my job on that tour was I did all of the pre-production, and this is pre-internet. This is pre-digital world. And I did all the pre-production researching and finding choirs in every town on the tour. And that meant all of North America, Japan, Europe, Israel. I remember we went to, and it was just this massive, crazy undertaking. I was in my 20s and I had no idea what I was doing, and I just kind of figured it out. Had I known how much work it was and what it really entailed, I would have asked for a lot more money. But it was a great experience. It was like an amazing education for me to do that gig. And at that time for Foreigner, that song was huge. I
Oh,
Want to
yeah.
Know What Love Is was an international success. So, that song was the pièce de résistance. That was the highlight of the show. And it was towards the end of the set. And, on a daily basis, I would coordinate the choirs. We would have a rehearsal in the afternoon. We would have a stage rehearsal with the choir walking on and off stage and singing. And, we carried choir robes. I had to, organize and fit them for their robes and get them on stage on time. And then I got to sing as well, which was fun. And they used to let me do, some fills and stuff like that. But my main gig was I was the choir director. So that was an incredible feat, I must say. So I had done that prior to Floyd. So and the Jackson Victory Tour, I worked as a production assistant before that, and I toured with the Glenn Miller Orchestra when I was like 19, and I was a singer on that tour. But all these things, all these experiences definitely helped me to come to the table with skills. So
Right.
yeah.
You mentioned getting to wail and ad libs and stuff like that. Like I think I mentioned this last time. There's a lot of times when I'll be watching Momentary, the Division, Delicate Sound of Thunder.
Yeah.
I'm a little dyslexic, you see.
Okay.
And like there's one moment in On the Turning Away where you just let out a note, and it's just like, wow, it's so good. And it just seemed like, from what we talked about last time, like David was pretty open to everybody kind of being able to showcase their talents and stuff.
Totally. He was, I haven't seen him in a long time. Last time I saw him was 2016 at Madison Square Garden, when he was doing his solo show. And I went backstage and said hello, and it was great to see everybody. And he's just such a sweet man and just a gentleman and a gentle soul. And I just, I remember working with him, and he was just so open and easygoing, and letting Scott do his thing, his crazy, his dancing around and with his, knees flapping together and taking solos. And I mean, his energy, Scott's energy is so amazing on stage. But, there are I can think of a lot of stars, or band leaders that might not want that, because it's definitely getting attention. But David was so cool to just let everybody do their thing. So yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm starting to write my copy for when I talk about momentary lapse of reason and delicate sound of thunder and stuff like that. And I get it does seem to me like when I was listening to it, because I listened to the solo album he had put out before then, About Face, because sometimes people will say, "Oh, momentary lapse of reason, it's basically a David Gilmour solo album," and I go, I feel like he's really making an attempt to make it a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think so too. I think he was still trying to sort of maintain the the sound of Floyd and um yeah, just the brand, if you will, because David's
right.
thing is, to me, it's a little bit more uh, intimate and sometimes somber, very emotional. His solo stuff to me is very tender, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I was going to say is um, it's kind of fun that this has emerged after our chat. And so, on the back of my, very arrogant mind, I'm like, well, I mean, obviously it came from me. So, but did you guys just chat with each other and say, hey, we should do this? Or did it more come out of with the band or for the upcoming event in Chile?
Oh, I think really how it came together was really through Durga, because Durga has really kind of built this career in a way, of singing with a lot of Pink Floyd tribute bands all over the world. It's really kind of become her thing, as well as Lorelei. They've been singing with a lot of different bands, tribute bands. So I think Durga initially made this happen, connected with this band in Chile, and kind of invited myself and Scott to be a part of it, and Lorelei, of course. So I think it really kind of came through her, because she's really been, working hard out there, kind of keeping her brand, uh, together, and, with her history and everything. So, yeah. Because honestly, I've actually kind of avoided doing a lot of these tribute gigs for a long time. And it wasn't until, gosh, maybe 6, 7 years ago, with the pandemic, it's like there's like a time warp in my brain. But yeah, I think 6 or 7 years ago, maybe I was initially contacted by Pink's One out of Sicily, and they reached out to me on Facebook, and they had asked me a number of times would I come and sing with them, and I just said no, 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 I can't. I'm too busy, or honestly, I was kind of resisting doing that, because I just thought, why do I want to do that? Because I sang with the real Pink Floyd. Why do I need to, sing with a tribute band? And they just kept kind of hounding me, and, very sweetly, please, please come sing with us. And I finally said at one point, okay, well, this is what I need. Here's my price. Here's my requirements for me to make that trip. And they came back and they said, okay. And I'm like, oh
That was like a thing where you tried to price yourself out and they just happened to meet the price.
no. Exactly. So, yeah, it was kind of funny. But honestly, and my husband thought I was crazy. He said, you don't know these people. You don't know where you're going. What are you doing? But I just had a really good feeling about them. And it turned out to be such an amazing, wonderful, fun trip that has turned into me going back 3, 4 times now. And I'm actually going back there in April, with Scott, and Gary's supposed to join us too. So, it's turned out to be such a wonderful connection, and I have great friends down there now in Sicily with Pink's One, and a lot of the friends and family surrounding that band, and I've made a lot of new friends and fans and connections, and so you never know, you just never know how things are going to pan out. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that's how it
if
started.
if you do some gigs in Sicily in April, I might just have to take a plane trip out there and go see it
That would
because
be so fun. That would be great. Yeah.
because I love me some Italy, and Durga lives in Italy too, right?
Yeah, she has a place in Rome, I think. Yeah, in Rome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really, I haven't seen her in person in a long time. So when I see her in Chile, I really want to catch up with her and hear the details of what's been going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Pink's One because this was one of the real reasons I wanted to chat with you about because I'm always a big fan of talking about original music, and you've put out a lot of really cool songs that are Heat, Without Your Smile, which you
Thank
can check out on her YouTube channel. Um, but I really was very intrigued by the In My Blood video because Pink's One is on it, and I was
you.
like, well, that's kind of cool that like a band that has been branded as a tribute band is making original music and has kind of that sort of energy of the band they're paying tribute to, but it still sounds like its own thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that song is I've had that song in my hard drive, on my hard drive for a long time. And just in the last year, I've been trying to kind of pull songs out of my catalog that haven't been released, or songs that I've wanted to redo and release and just put out there. And a friend of mine, Kevin Bartlett, who's a wonderful producer, I approached him and said, "Look, Kevin, I have this song, and I really want it to kind of be reminiscent of an '80s sort of Pink Floyd vibe, but my own thing." And so we actually worked on co-producing that long distance. So we worked on Zoom. We sent files back and forth. And so Kevin helped me with put the song together. And when I knew that I was going to Sicily in August, this past August, and I was planning on releasing the song, I thought, you know what, it would be really cool to shoot a little video while I'm in Sicily because the scenery and the landscapes and just the look of the country is so amazing. And so I wrote to Alessandro, the lead guitar player singer for Pink's One, and I said, "Hey, I would love to shoot a video. Can you put me in touch with someone that you've worked with?" And he put me in touch with Federico Panasati. I hope I'm saying his name right. Panasiti, maybe. But Federico had done some stuff with Pink's One, and so I flew into Sicily. The next day, I'm totally jet lagged, and we get up 5 o'clock in the morning, and I do my hair and my makeup, and we go out to this very remote, deserted location, trying to shoot before the sun comes up, because once the sun came up, it was like, no joke, almost 100 degrees. It was in the high 90s.
Hmm.
And of course, we ended up shooting in the, broiling heat. It was just insanely hot, which is why the video has this very bright, almost whitewashed, kind of look. But the guys in the band, they were so amazing. They hung out with me and in the heat all day till mid-afternoon. And we made this piece. Alessandro is actually playing the guitar solo on the song, But the truth is, the guys in the band are not actually playing, so that was all pre-recorded, you know. But I think it might be fun to talk to them about playing that song live in April. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be. I know there are like my bass player Joan Chu. She's in Led Zeppelin,
Oh
if you
yeah,
know them,
yeah.
and every once in a while I've seen them a couple of times. They're like, you know what, we've got this acoustic song that we wrote that's like inspired by Led Zeppelin. So I think it would
Right.
definitely, if I went to see you guys, I would be like, oh, cool, original song, I love it. You know.
Cool. Well, I'll suggest it to them. So
That's right. Tell them JT Curtis wants to hear it, and then they'll go,
I
oh,
will. I will.
well. You're singing all the vocals on that song, right?
Yeah, it's me. I'm in this room, actually, on this computer that I recorded it. So yeah.
Because I was about to say those are some really adventurous harmonies. I love how haunting and just how they're so beautifully arranged, but they just really give you this kind of haunting feeling. Like
Oh, great. Thank you. Cool.
yeah,
I'm glad.
it's almost like you teach singing or something like that.
Hey, how about that? I do.
That's right. Yeah. When did you start teaching singing?
Oh God. I started privately teaching out of my apartment in New York, um, in 2000. So the story behind that is I had just come off the road with Sting. I toured with Sting in the end from the end of 1999 into 2000. So like around May of 2000, I came home. That's a whole long story that I don't need to get into right now, but there was a Screen Actors Guild strike right at that moment, and I couldn't do sessions. I couldn't work in town. And my husband was at the time he was writing music for television commercials and TV music, and he had just won this huge campaign for Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, it was supposed to be $250,000, payday for him. But because we're Screen Actors Guild members and he was a signatory, we couldn't work and he couldn't record on that spot that he wrote. And
That's
so,
rough.
yeah, it was a really rough time. And so teaching was something that I kind of had in the back of my mind as something I might do someday. And I thought, well, you know, how does the saying go? Necessity is the mother of invention. So I wanted to work. I needed to work. And I took out an ad in the Village Voice, which I think is gone now, right? Maybe it's online now. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I used to answer ads in the Village Voice.
yeah, I mean, we all, the Village Voice was like the music paper, the hip downtown, paper for all of us musicians and hippies and, progressives, etc. So anyway, I took an ad out in the Village Voice, voice lessons, available, and put a little blurb in there, and I started getting calls from students, and I started teaching out of my apartment. And, it was a whole big adventure for me. I had not at that point, I had no training as a teacher. Did not have my degrees at that point. And, but I discovered that I really liked it and that I was pretty good at teaching and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I built up my practice. 9/11 happens, going forward, and Danny and I decided we wanted to get out of town. So by 2004, we bought a house upstate New York, 2 hours north of Manhattan. And and I started teaching here. I'm upstate now, and I started teaching here. And then I started getting little gigs, like I taught at the Poughkeepsie Day School, and I taught in some other music stores and things like that. And then I realized, if I really want to take this further, if I want to get a university job, I'm going to have my college degrees. So I ended up going back to school, got my bachelor's, and I did an accelerated program through Empire State SUNY, so State University of New York, Empire State, and I did my bachelor's in like a little over 2 years, and
Wow.
then I did a master's degree at NYU. So that was like a whole other big journey of going back to school, getting my degrees, and then right at the time I was doing my master's degree at NYU, I I answered an ad. It was in the job listings for NYU, and I got a gig teaching at the Clive Davis Institute, where I've been now for 9 years, I think, something like that. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
That's amazing.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Never planned on this.
Do you have like different, like, I'm sure people will come to you saying, like, I want to sing this way, like I want to be a Broadway singer, or somebody might say, I want to be like a death metal singer or something like that. Like,
Uh-huh.
do you have different approaches for, like how, like, obviously, like, I was talking to somebody about, like, I do a lot of, rock singing, and like how you scream and still maintain your voice and everything is a whole presence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure, do you have like a specific like program you go about with that, or?
No, not really. I'm pretty much dealing with contemporary singers. So, in other words, these are all, kids that are singing pop music, rock music, whether it's gospel, R&B, it's all contemporary stuff. So, I'm not really dealing with classical singers, or for the most part, I'm not really dealing with musical theater students. That's like another program at NYU,
Hmm.
at the new school. I also teach at the new school. So, but even so, regardless of the kind of music that anyone sings, the voice functions the same way. But what makes it different, what's different in terms of teaching and also sound production, is really coming to an understanding of how we make sound as humans and as singers, how we deal with tuning harmonics in the vocal tract, how we deal with articulation and shaping vowels, which affects the resonant space, and how the harmonics and the formants are interacting in the vocal tract. So there, it's one instrument, it's one voice, if you will, but knowing how to sort of change the approach and the strategy for how you want to make sound, what kind of sound you want to make, you know, if that
Right.
makes sense. So,
No, when I started singing, like when I was, God, like 17, I was not a singer, I was a guitar player, but somebody had to sing. So, and my idea of singing was going, "Ah!" But I had no idea how to do it. So it was all coming from here. So
ow.
by the end of a gig, I'd be like, hey guys, that was a really good show, wasn't it?
Oh,
And
you're
then,
so lucky you didn't blow it out and end up with nodules.
oh yeah. And then somebody wisely, said, you got to sing from the gut. You can add in a little bit of that, but you really the power needs to come from the gut. So,
Well, yes and no. Yeah, the breath is definitely the generator, right? Without the breath, there is no sound. So even as we're speaking, there has to be air flowing through past the vocal folds to create the oscillation and create the sound wave. So yeah, for sure, The breath is the generator. But then the actual, you know, creating the character, if you will, of the sound, whether you're creating very brassy, edgy kinds of tonalities, or whether you want to be creating rounder, darker kinds of tonalities, that all has to do with what's happening in the vocal tract. You know, the big, I call it, I always tell my students, this is the big boom box, you know. This is really where all of that shaping of the sound is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just, by the way, I was going through, we have a chat going on, and if anybody wants to ask any questions for Machan or anything.
Oh, cool.
And somebody did mention the Great Gig in the Sky. He said the Great Gig, if you will. We talked about that a little bit on the last chat, but I'm because I might be, I'm actually going to be doing a show where we're doing Dark Side of the Moon in full.
Wow. Cool.
And my friend Megan Rose, hi Megan, she's gonna be singing that, and she's like, "Ooh, that's a tough one," you know.
Oh yeah, it's a workout. It's definitely a workout.
Yeah, and you guys did, you know, all three of you split it up.
Yeah, well, we all wanted to sing it, you know, so David was like, you know, figure it out.
Did he actually say that?
In a way, yeah. I mean, it was cool though. It was fine because, and I think it's a wonderful little demonstration of, you know, between Rachel, Durga, and I, we have very different voices and very different qualities, you know, to our voices. And I think it was very appropriately divided. It just worked out. It worked out really well.
Did you guys ever swap like parts of the song, or was it always Rachel does that part, Durga does that part, and you do the last part?
Yeah, once we kind of settled into who was doing what, that was the show. That was it. Yeah.
And then I think I saw in Pink's one, I think I saw a clip. Did you do the whole thing?
I have done the whole thing with them this past summer, and I think the last time I was there, I shared it with one of their singers, Catherine Dunduzo, who's a lovely singer. And I said to them, I said, I don't need to sing the whole thing. I don't care, you know. And she's used to doing it with the band when I'm not there. And I said, well, let's split it up, you know, let's share it. And yeah, I don't need, it's like not an ego thing for me at all. I don't care. It's like the more the merrier, you know. So yeah, so we split it, but I have done it. I have done the whole thing myself, and I'm going to be doing the first part, which I need to be practicing. I'm doing that in Chile. I'm singing the first part in Chile because Lorelei didn't want to do it. So I'm like, she's like, I ain't doing that. So, okay. All right. So.
Well, because I mean, I think when they did Venice, Lorelei did the last part.
So she took my place. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So because Rachel was still there and Durga, and so Lorelei came in and did my spot. Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, before you all ask, no, we still don't know where Rachel is.
No, we don't.
We addressed that in the last one.
Exactly. We do not know. I mean, honestly, it's like I saw Gary and Scott this summer and we talked about it. It's like she disappeared off the face of the earth. It's like nobody knows like what's happened to her. Like there are rumors that she kind of got out of the music business and she ended up maybe doing some work with some animal welfare organization or something. I have no idea. So yeah, so stop asking us. We don't know.
Well, you mentioned the last one that there was like a little bit of like tension. Was there anything that you kind of picked up where she was just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore or something like that? Or
I mean, as far as her not continuing singing, I don't know. I really don't know. The tension is just, I think it was just young stupidity, you know, at the time. So.
Yep. I'm quite aware. I'm still getting over that. So
Yeah, so am I.
Just ask my wife. Actually, my wife is Japanese. My wife was from Hokkaido, and you were born in Japan as well, right?
I was born in Yokohama.
Right, Yokohama. There's a friend of mine, Tomo Kano. Hi, Tomo.
Huh?
He's a drummer. He used to work in New York a lot, and I think he's back for good now. But he's also from Yokohama.
Oh, cool. He's back in Yokohama now?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it to him. It's like, oh, was she there for a while, or?
Well, I only lived there till I was going on 5 years old, so I don't remember a lot. Yeah.
Mm,
So, yeah, my dad was, U.S. Army,
right.
this was, post World War II, at that point, my father needed to come back to the States and for work, and so my older sister and I were shipped over, with my mom. So big change in life.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've played in Let It Be did a tour in Japan, so I think we played in Yokohama. I love their audiences. Their audiences were so much fun. They'd have like signs up, like one would say, well, "I love you, George." I'm like, I'm not really George, but okay.
I know when they're into something, they're so appreciative, and yeah, super fans, right? Uber fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk forever about so many people that you've worked with. You mentioned when we were chatting Gov't Mule, and you posted that awesome clip where Warren's singing "Get By With a Little Help from My Friends." And then when it gets to the famous Joe Cocker scream, you do the Joe Cocker scream.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always fun. That's a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know if you can see it in that particular clip, but he points to me because I didn't know it was coming. And he just points to me and I'm like, "Okay, here we go."
He's just like, I'm not blowing out my voice.
No, he's very generous that way too.
He seems like a really. I saw Gov't Mule in Central Park once, and they were spectacular. You might have been on stage. I don't even remember, but
Maybe, yeah, I do sing with them sometimes. So, and they just got nominated for a Grammy.
right.
Yeah,
What's the nomination?
it's well, they did two records during COVID lockdown. And one of them is Heavy Load Blues, which got released earlier this year. And that's the record that they've been nominated for in the traditional blues category, along with, Taj Mahal and, I mean, some incredible luminaries of that genre. So it's really exciting for them, and I really hope they win because, they've been out there busting their butts for a really long time, and I would love to see that for them. So,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm like outside of Pink Floyd, probably my favorite band ever is Duane Allman era Allman Brothers. And I feel like they went through their troubles, but Warren definitely came in and really gave them like a new identity, and then of
yeah,
course he made Gov't Mule.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he had a good run. He had a good run with the Allman Brothers. Yeah, which, sadly, never going to happen again. They're done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
both Allman Brothers are gone now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, the music will certainly live on. And, Derek Trucks is out there, and I'm sure he's playing some of that material sometimes. And Mule plays, some of those songs at times. And, a lot of bands in that jam band scene play those tunes. So, yeah, the music is legendary at this point. But yeah, yeah. Sadly,
Absolutely.
sadly it's over. And honestly, I don't think Pink Floyd will ever happen again either. I think it's done.
Yeah, it does seem like, without getting to a whole thing about that. Although I don't know, because I always hear like, David and Gilmour and Roger Waters never want to work together, but every once in a while they're like, yeah, maybe we'll go do this thing for charity or something like that. So
Yeah, you do see that once in a while, but I don't know for sure. There's nothing official to this, but my sense is that, because he sold off most of his guitar collection for charity. He
right.
donated something like $21 million to Client Earth a few years ago, and I think he's happy, enjoying his, wife and family. He's got a bunch of kids, and they have a big farm, and I think he's enjoying his life. I mean, he doesn't need to tour. He doesn't need to slog it out on the road anymore. you know?
Yeah, it I've done relatively little touring, but even I can tell you it does get to be a slug after a while.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, anybody that thinks it's like, a glamorous, easy go lucky kind of life is wrong. It's hard work. Yeah, the time you're on stage is fantastic. The time that you're actually making music and playing music with the audience, and you have that beautiful energy of being on stage, that's the thrill of it.
Hmm.
But the rest of it is hurry up and wait, travel, hotel to hotel, city to city. You don't know where you are half the time. And, you don't always have good food, and, your body is just being thrown through so many different time zones and environmental conditions, and it's rough. And the older you get, the harder it gets too,
Right.
So, I mean, am I
Well,
happy that I did it? Of course, I'm very happy I had all those years on the road, for
yeah.
sure.
Well, and it sounds like from when we talked last time with everybody that tour in and of itself was like a lifetime's worth of,
It,
rock and roll cliches.
it was. But, we were all young. We were in our 20s, and, you know, it was rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was definitely fun.
Yeah, it's funny when I was writing my copy, I wonder if there was any kind of change in the vibe of the tour when it turned out that the lawsuit had been resolved. Because I think Roger and his lawyers and David and his lawyers, they got together and said, okay, we have a deal now. We're fine. We'll go out on tour. Roger does his thing. Was there any kind of like, hey guys, time to party kind of situation, or?
Well, I think there was a palpable sense of relief. I remember that, when that lawsuit was happening, of course, they did not discuss the details of what was happening, with the band, with us, with the side guys, but Nick and Dave and Rick, were certainly under a lot of pressure with that lawsuit. So I think there was a tremendous sense of relief for them. And I do remember, having a lot of fun. Because with Dave and Nick and Rick, we weren't separated from them. Sometimes on big tours, the band or the side guys or the background vocalists are separated from the stars, But in that case, we all traveled together, we all mingled together, we partied together, we, spent a lot of time with each other. And it was like a real, family hang. So yeah, it was a really memorable, fun tour.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody had a nice. I got a couple of nice comments. One's from Becky Curtis. I wonder who that is. I sure hope the road don't come to own me. There's so many dreams have yet to come by Carole King. Wonderful quote.
Right, right.
Thank you, Becky Curtis, whoever you are. And Mr. Orgiture, hopefully I said that right. I just went to see Elton John at the final show in Dodger Stadium. Touring
Wow.
is a hard life. I can totally understand why a lot of these guys don't want to tour anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Although Elton's had his "This Is My Final" tour a
A few
couple other.
times, hasn't he?
What's that? What's that Simpsons quote when Krusty has his farewell tour says, "And now retiring for the fourth and final time."
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Roger's on his last tour too, right? Isn't that the rumor? This is kind
Um,
of his last run. I mean, they're doing Europe, I think, next year, but I've heard that this might be his last run. I mean, he's getting older too. Everybody's getting older.
oh yeah.
So,
Well, I did get to see. I think I texted you about this. I got to see Nick and Guy Pratt,
yeah,
and I got to meet them. Nick is a Guy Pratt too, sweetest, nicest guy in the world, and Nick
yeah.
was totally cool.
Good. That's great. I'm glad you got to meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're probably going to wrap this up in a little bit. So if anybody else has any questions they want to ask, no, we're not going to give you our social security numbers, but you can ask if you want. Maybe you can help me out with this. So I'm going to be reviewing a momentary lapse of reason at some point, and usually I will say in it the essential track from the album. Which is like if you can only listen to one song from this album, this is the one to listen to. What would you say is the essential track from A Momentary Lapse of Reason?
Oh, wow. Um, that's a hard question. I mean, I love On the Turning Away. I
Yeah,
love that song.
that would be mine actually.
Yeah, I love that song. And as far as like guitar work and an incredible piece featuring David, I would say Sorrow. I think Sorrow is like an amazing, you know, sort of virtuosic display for him.
Oh
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's a great piece. But there's so many great songs. I mean, Dogs of War, I think is so relevant now. I mean, I think about it sometimes. There's so many songs, Pink Floyd songs, that I think are so relevant
Oh yeah.
still. Us and Them, Money. I mean, the
Time.
time. Yeah, the lyrics, to some of those songs. I mean, they're timeless for sure, and are still so incredibly relevant.
Yeah, it is amazing. Anytime like my History of Rock co-hosts had really never sat down and listened to Dark Side of the Moon, and I said, "Well, definitely sit down, check it out," and they were just both like, "Wow." Just like it's like this record could have been made today. So
Absolutely, yeah. Although you don't hear a lot of music like that now. I
yeah,
coming back though. I think it's going to come back.
I mean, I made my own prog rock piece, but
A little shameless self-promotion, perhaps.
yeah, that just happens to be in the that I just happen to keep. I put that I framed that and I put it in the back so that every single time I appear on camera, people see it. So.
Are you playing out with that music a lot?
Sometimes you know how it is. It's tough to get out and play. But on my birthday, we actually did a new piece. I'd written this because for a long time I tried to like come up with. I grew up with like my parents' record collection, so I would try to. Okay, let me kind of get out of that and do something more contemporary. And then after a while, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna, you know, make progressive rock songs and like funk songs and '90s sounding grunge songs. Because
Do what you love, right?
yeah, although we are planning something for the anniversary of my father's passing. Jay Curtis, may he rest in peace.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. How long ago?
It was 5 years ago. We'll be on January 25th at the bitter end to be determined. We're still working it out. But he put out a couple of poetry books. I'm sorry, I'm now turning this all into me. I apologize.
Yeah, who's interviewing who now?
But that piece actually samples my dad's poetry, so we're going to play the whole piece
Oh,
together.
oh, that's sweet. That's nice.
So, but when you do go check out my own stuff, go over to Machan's YouTube channel because I actually really it's got like this kind of cool Brazilian vibe to it. But also in my bloods, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, you'll be listening to that, go ooh, and you'll kind of get sort of a Pompeii sort of vibe from all the visuals and
Oh,
everything,
cool.
which
Nice.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, or
It wasn't, but now that you're saying it, it's kind of cool. Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I should uh, I should also mention so the the Delicate Sound of Thunder celebration is in Chile. It's in Santiago. Is that correct? Or
Santiago, right. Santiago, Chile. The show is on the 10th of December. So anybody down there in South America, come on, come on by.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny, me and my wife, I was even saying, hey, maybe we should, go visit Chile, make it's obviously going to be a lot warmer there than here in cold New
It'll be
York.
summer. It'll be summer.
Unfortunately, I have a gig the same night, so
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but, I'm sure there'll be more down the road, you
I
know.
think so. I think there will be. So there might be something happening in the summer. I'm not at liberty to say, but there might be some things happening, sort of Pink Floyd related in the summer. So yeah, stay tuned. Yeah.
Nice. Machan, any other events, any other things you want to talk about before we sign off? Tell us what the meaning of life is or anything like that.
Well, I haven't figured that one out. There's still a lot of questions, but I guess I'll just say, since we're doing this, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported me on this crazy Fab over 40 competition thing that I did. And I didn't make it to the finals. But there, it was a benefit for the National Breast Cancer Foundation.
Hmm.
And I know that a lot of my friends and fans and, a bunch of people were voting for me and donating money. It was for a good cause. I have yet to actually get information from this organization regarding the vote counts. And, I was trying to find out how much I actually was able to raise as an individual. There are a lot of women in the competition, but I'm going to try to find that out. So they're being a little bit secretive about it. But thanks to everybody that voted. So
Yep, I did that a couple of times.
thank you. I
Um,
know, I know it was crazy. It was a crazy thing to do, but hey, the grand prize is $40,000. So I'm like, I could use $40,000.
yeah, yeah, that'll take care of a month's rent in New York City.
Exactly. Exactly. But anyway, it was fun for a few weeks.
Absolutely, and yes, absolutely. If anybody can look into it and donate to breast cancer awareness, it's definitely something that is still definitely a problem, and imagine a cure, all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The cause is a worthy cause. So, yeah, at this point I would just go directly to these organizations. There's a lot of them out there. The American Breast Cancer Foundation, the National Breast Cancer Foundation. There's a ton of, nonprofits that donate. So, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, listen, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and Machan, I want to thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm glad we got to expand past Pink Floyd a little bit, because
Absolutely.
the entire world doesn't revolve around Pink Floyd. Oh, I'm sorry. The entire world revolves around Pink Floyd.
At least your world and whoever's watching this. It's funny. No, it's fun. It's always fun talking to you, and thanks for staying in touch and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to end the stream right now. Thank you all, and I'll see you
Thanks.
next time.